My daughter didn't show any signs with mental illness until she was smoking weed 5 times a day. What is it really like for your loved one to be in recovery? And how can we be a support system instead of part of the problem? Because if I could have stopped her, I'd have done it by now. It would have happened.
And if she could have stopped her,
Absolutely.
She would have done it by now. It would have already happened.
And that's another piece of it. And I remember an individual in a high place in one of our hospitals saying, you know, Linda, there's some people we just can't help. And I said, I completely disagree with you. I think there are some people we can't help right now.
How do you expect them to ever fully recover? Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Shane Unchained Podcast. I'm super excited again today. I'm excited every time for the podcast. We have a very special guest today that's going to cover a lot of topics related to mental health. And her name is Linda Finkelstein. Thank you so much for being with us today. Linda Finkelstein is the executive director of NAMI, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what that means and what that all entails. But I tell you, we met in rap class, and that's not like, that's not the kind of rap class that I'm talking about. It's
Wellness Recovery Action Plan.
Wellness Recovery Action Plan. I took the whole course and I got a certification. I should be able to give you the acronym, but it just slipped my mind.
It's okay.
Which was a powerful class. I do want to say that. I want to add that. I want to plug RAP really quickly. Just really overall, it kind of covers taking care of yourself, especially if you work in the community of recovery, and especially if you work in social work or whatever you're engaging in people and maybe some of the harder parts of their life, that kind of drains you. And this gives you an opportunity to take care of yourself too, right?
Absolutely. RAP's for everybody.
Yeah.
No matter where you are in your journey in life, RAP is a good place to be. And it's just a place to navigate your wellness. You know, what do you look like when you're well? We just did a RAP class with the co-responders over in Escambia County. And these are law enforcement officers and then clinicians working together. We did a couple of simulations. My good friend Sini did a woman who was experiencing mental health conditions. She's down on Palafox and she's yelling at the tourists.
Wow.
And they did a simulation with that, and they are already speaking the rap language. Did a beautiful job. But no, they had never considered, what do I look like when I'm well? That was one of the big takeaways for them. And we so often don't ask ourselves that question. What do I look like when I'm well? And what do I look like when I'm not well? You know, we pretty much know what that might look like. But what are my triggers? What are my stressors? What are my early warning signs? What do I need to do? How do I build my wellness toolbox so that I can live the life I want? And what's beautiful about RAP, and we'll talk about NAMI too, but NAMI is RAP and RAP is NAMI. What the beautiful thing about RAP is that when you are early in recovery, whether you're coming out of the hospital or whether you're coming out of addiction, whatever's going on in your life, it is a great way for you to discover what you like, what you don't like, and build the life that you want. It's not the life your therapist wants. It's not the life your probation officer thinks you should have. It's the life you want. Yeah. And we are so much more willing to live that life than what everybody else wants us to do. And I do think that's a big missing piece in recovery. It's so important that people are in charge of their recovery and what it looks like. And it's going to be different for everybody. And if we can just get that motivation and in our brain and think about my recovery looks completely different than yours. You might look at my recovery and go, that's not recovery at all. But that's what works for me. That's
Absolutely.
What gives my life purpose.
And I think that was one of the things that I took away from that class was that there was a wide, diverse group. I mean, we were all very diverse.
Yeah.
And everybody had a little bit of different twist on how they responded to things or the things they liked, the things they were interested in, and what they look like when they're well, and then what they look like when they're unwell. We all had a little bit of different answer. So I think that's a beautiful thing that we're open-minded to what type or what approach at recovery works for me. And that's up to me to identify. And I say that all the time, because boundaries that I set sometimes, they may look different than your boundaries, right? And there are things that I might be able to engage in that would absolutely crash you out, right? And there are things that you may be able to engage in that just wouldn't work for me. And so I think that what you guys are doing over there is beautiful. I'm excited for RAP 2, is that right. RAP 2?
Right,
yeah.
Coming up
soon. Do you want to tell the people when it's coming up?
We've got a couple of them coming up. We've got a RAP 2, and that's only if you've taken RAP 1. And now if you're doing RAP 2, what you want to do is you want to be able to share it with other people. So we have a RAP 2 coming up on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of April. It's going to be over at United Way. And then we have another one coming up in June on the 10th, 11th, and 12th over at Health and Hope Clinic. And we have several RAP 1s coming up in the next couple of weeks. What we're trying to do is get people RAP trained in places like Lakeview Center, which is our mental health facility, Baptist Hospital, the jail, any place that people are or peers are, because it's a great way for them to start taking care of themselves as people who take care of other people and serve other people. But it's also a great way to get RAP to people who are coming out of incarceration or coming out of the hospital. And if we can treat people with that unconditional high regard, and that is what RAP is about, we treat each other, no matter what's going on between us, we treat each other with unconditional high regard. I can't think of anything better than a value and ethic of that for another human being.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And also, RAP, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is it free?
Right now it is. We do have some funding from our managing entity over in Florida. So we are able to offer our RAP 1 classes for free and our RAP 2 classes for a small fee. But we've been able to get that through organizations. So anybody who is in crisis, like anybody that is coming off the street from Offensive, we're about to do Offensive next weekend, the rest of their GOAT team. And then we're going to be doing the ladies at the camp. After that. And it's going to be the ladies on the GOAT team are going to be teaching the ladies in the camp. That's the ripple forward effect. Mm-hmm. We're getting a couple of people from short-term recovery at Lakeview, but they'll be going through our RAP class so they can start teaching it to the people who work there and the people they serve. So it's that constant ripple effect. Same thing with our co-responders. 2 of them are going to RAP 2, and then they'll share it with the law enforcement officers on the street.
So I highly encourage you guys to get involved, especially, it's free of charge.
It is.
You guys can go in and see what that's all about on the dates that she just mentioned, and we can throw those on the screen as well. But it's a gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
And so I think that's a beautiful thing. Tell us a little bit about NAMI.
NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. There are 24 affiliates in the state of Florida, and we take care of Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, and Walton counties. And we have really committed to being a peer-led organization. So that means everybody who is an officer or a CEO or any part of it has lived experience.
Wow.
They're either the loved one of somebody with an addiction or mental health issues, or they themselves are experiencing that. So because we are all peers, we ourselves, of course, are all trained in RAP. That was kind of a wonderful thing we did for ourselves. We don't have the burnout that other affiliates have. We don't have the issues that other affiliates have. So we've recently taken RAP to the state level with NAMI, and we'll be training other NAMIs in RAP and spreading it out that way too. But what we offer is everything that NAMI offers is free, and it's evidence-based. We have a connection support group for individuals living with a mental health condition or substance use. They meet online twice a week. We just started a neurodivergent support group.
Wow.
And the night that we have the neurodivergent support group, we also have the parents of neurodivergent children also that night too. All of these are online. Everything used to be in person before COVID, then COVID came and kind of changed it all. But it's made it easier for individuals that are peers because a lot of times they're much more comfortable being online than coming to a place.
Sure.
We have lots of presentations. We have something called In Our Own Voice, where peers go out into the community and tell their story. They talk about what happened, what helped, and what's next. It's very inspiring.
Let me ask you this, because I know the answer to this, but I'm sure all you guys may not know the answer to this. What's neurodivergent? What is that?
Man, I think we're all neurodivergent on some. Yeah, a neurodivergent individual is someone who just processes differently, thinks differently. They may be on the autistic, they may be autistic, but they're on the spectrum somewhere. And I find that what was really great about the genesis of our particular support group is there's a wonderful lady named Mandy who was getting her master's in her social work. And she herself is neurodivergent, and she really wanted to start a support group, so she came to NAMI, and we raised our hand and said, yep, we'll do it. And then we found out of all the individuals within our organization who were neurodivergent, we didn't even know they were.
Wow.
Yeah, and recognizing it myself, I look at myself and the way that I was raised and the things and the patterns of my family. We never thought there was any mental health conditions in our family. Absolutely there was, and neurodivergency was one of them. A lot of OCD, things like that. So it's just somebody who thinks differently than maybe the average person does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually think my stepson has certain signs of autism, is on the spectrum some. We've had some testing done at Lakeview when he was younger. He's only 8 years old now, but they didn't necessarily know for a fact whether he was on the spectrum or not. But I see where he thinks differently, and he puts together and processes things in a different way. Sometimes brilliantly to be as young as he is. So people that are on the spectrum or neurodivergent in any kind of way, they can have fulfilling, successful lives.
Oh, absolutely.
But it would be great for them to have the support of their peers.
Absolutely. And when you're neurodivergent, you may appear different. Your mannerisms are the things that you do, or the things that you recognize, or the things that you don't recognize. But I think that it's, again, treating everyone with unconditional high regard.
Do you think there's a connection we obviously know there's a connection between mental health and substance abuse in some way.
Absolutely.
When we're talking neurodivergence, do you think there's a connection between that and substance abuse?
I don't know. I do know that many individuals that are on the spectrum also have mental health conditions.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I also know that as far as drug addiction and mental health, what came first, the chicken or the egg? My daughter didn't show any signs with mental illness until she was smoking weed 5 times a day. So, it's hard to tell.
So it could have been already there, an existing condition, and she's medicating.
Right.
Right. And I think that happens a lot. So I was in rehab one time. And I was a resident there. I wasn't working there. And there was a guy, Dr. Rick Beach, which was on the board of addictionologists at this time, maybe 2000, early 2000s. There was a board of 12, and he would come and do his seminars. He actually owned the rehab facility that I was in. And some of the things that he was teaching us was just about not endorphins. My brain just went blank. Neurological transmitters and the way that dopamine, serotonin, and all that stuff works. And so one of the things that stuck out to me was he was talking about kids that were ADHD. And so if I'm a kid with ADHD and it's not diagnosed, and by the way, I'm a firm believer that that's a real thing. That's not just something that we throw on kids because they're hyperactive, because my 8-year-old stepson is the poster child for ADHD, and we did everything that we could to try to combat that and neutralize that, and it was only through medication, and that was like the one thing we didn't want to do, but that was the one thing that worked. And so I'm a true believer that that's a real condition. I was ignorant to that. Before that, I was thinking, oh, that's just something that people say because your kids are acting bad. But anyway, so if I'm a kid that is suffering from ADHD and I'm growing up and it's undiagnosed, the way that they combat ADHD is with a stimulant, right? So if I'm a kid and it's been undiagnosed, the first time that I do a stimulant, it's all going to make perfect sense, and I'm going to be like, wow, I'm okay, I'm focused, this is it. And so I'm going to continue self-medicating. So I think that's a perfect example of how mental health can be a condition, and then we medicate in some way that works synergistically with that. And then we're like, for whatever reason, we're like, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. Like, I'm okay right now.
Yeah.
So I think that happens.
It absolutely does. I have a grandson who's ADHD. He's 5. And he can tell you all the planets. He's going to be an astronaut. The boy is focused on what he wants to be in life. But, you take him on a field trip and it's clear that Alexander's the one that can't sit still and gets distracted and all those sorts of things. So these are smart kids. It's just that self-direction.
Yeah.
So he's looking forward to starting, I don't know if he is, but his parents are looking forward to him starting his medication in the near future. And it's been great for him because another program that we have is called Little Monsters.
Oh, wow.
And it helps little kids identify their emotions. I don't know about you, but I was raised in a family that said, oh, Are you upset about something? Because if you are, you need to knock it off, or I'm going to give you a reason.
Yes.
Stuff your emotions down. If there was a crisis in my family and we saw, oh my God, look what's happening there, we'd turn away because we didn't want to deal with it. If it was still there when we were looking back, we just acted like it never happened.
Yes.
So that, and growing up as an adult and not being able to identify is, I feel anxious, I feel nervous, I feel depressed, I feel just some kind of way, because I was never allowed to feel those emotions. Thank God I married into a family of drama queens. All my kids are drama queens. My husband is. It's exactly what I needed in my life. And they're incredible people, and they keep me sane. They keep me balanced, and they keep me where I need to be.
We have that on record, by the way. You just said that on film. So we can, if your family wants to refer to this, that you're thanking God that you married into drama queens.
I did, and I've said it to them. It's made a huge difference in my life. So instead of thinking that that's a problem, it's a good thing. But he can tell me, Yaya, I don't want to go in Publix because I'm feeling nervous. I don't like the speaker they have in there. He can talk to me, tell me how he's feeling, and then we can divert away from that instead of him being seen and not heard. And this, it's a great little program. It's coloring books, and it's a little story about a monster and all the feelings that he has.
Wow.
And the kids color the coloring book, and we talk about it, and they send it home. So everything you can think of as far as, whether you need help with your children, whether you're having difficulties on aging, whether or not you're coming out of addiction, whether or not you have the, dual diagnosis with a mental health condition and substance use. Plus, dump in there trafficking, fentanyl, and everything else that can happen to a person. We have the ability to walk along with you. We are not going to tell you what to do. We are not professional medical people at all. We're family members and loved ones and members of the community, but we have been trained in evidence-based programs. And being peers and its certified peer support specialists in Florida, we have that training and we keep up with it. And when people are coming out of addiction, we encourage them to take the RAP class. Then if they are interested in it and they want to continue with it, they take RAP 2. And then if they want to become a peer support specialist, we also help them with that. We get them connected with the state, the individual they're going to be connected with during their process. We help them with their letters of recommendation. If they do have a charge, we work through the department, DCF, the Department of Children and Families, to get the charge either reduced or get them a waiver. I will tell you that one barrier we have, and if we could get our legislators to really think about it, is when an individual has a charge and they've served their time and paid their restitution and they've been on probation, then I think they have paid their debt to society. We do not need to punish them for 24 more months before we give them a job.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Yeah. And that is a barrier that doesn't need to be there. Talk about pushing a person back into a relapse of some sort. That'll do it. Because you're trying to get a job in the field that you have a passion for, and you've been working that passion the whole time. But the beautiful thing with us is NAMI doesn't care. We don't care what your charges are. We have no issues with that. We do pay our peers. We pay them stipends.
That's a story out of my book right there. I mean, that's a page out of my story.
Yeah.
I had so many consequences, and one of the biggest consequences was even after I paid my debt and did what I had to do to supposedly clear my name.
Right.
I never could get a job. And when I say that, I could get a job washing dishes, or I could get a career path. I actually was hired on at Baptist to do work at the Friary, right, some years back, and background check came back, and they will not let me work there. I also went to Bradford. I was hired at Bradford to do intake some years ago, and background check came back. They would not let me work there. And so it's like shutting the door in people's face that have already suffered a great deal. And I know that they've created other people to suffer throughout their mistakes that they've made. But at some point, we have to say, when is enough to give someone an opportunity to better their life? Why put them back to this revolving door of disappointment, this revolving door of doors getting slammed in their face, doors of opportunity, and them never being able to get ahead? How do you expect them to ever fully recover and move on with their life if they have all these hurdles? I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So if we can change that law, so we want to work with our representatives, and anytime we have an opportunity, help us out. We want to change that law. We want to work on that next year for next year's session.
So I want to ask you this. I want to ask you. You told us a little bit about everything that you're involved in. Well, maybe not everything, but you told us a few things that you're involved in. What motivated you to even go this direction in your life?
That's a really interesting question, because I have had the opportunity to really reflect back on my whole life. I am 71 years old, or about to be, and I feel like I've been awake for about 10 years.
You look great, by the way.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I feel like I've been awake for about 10 years, because it's really my daughter's psychotic break and the last 14 years of being in and out of rehabs and trying to figure out how I keep her alive. Because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to keep her alive. And I think that's what every family member is thinking about. And we will do things that we would never, ever consider doing. We will lie. We will be co-conspirators. We will be secret keepers. We will do all those things to the detriment of the rest of our family, simply because we're trying to keep somebody on this planet.
Yeah.
So once I learned, and it took me, I didn't get into my first NAMI class until 8 months after her first break. And I had no clue what I was looking at. I had no clue what I was doing. But getting into that NAMI family-to-family class really taught me the biology of what was happening with her, but also it taught me what I needed to do. And that class really was for me. It was, use your I statements instead of you statements. Understand that they are not trying to ruin your life. It looks like bad behavior, but they are just trying to protect their sovereign selves. They are just simply trying to survive. Because if you can imagine waking up every day and having a radio going on in your head while everything else is going on around you, and not being able to, someone's looking at you and talking to you and not being able to hear you. These are the bravest people on the planet, because they get up every day and they do what they need to do, and they are dealing with all of that. Same thing in addiction. So to me, the heroes are the individuals who are living with their substance use or their recovery and all of that. And it really brings you to a place where you are opening up doors in yourself that other people probably don't have the opportunity. So what I learned about myself was it brought me to NAMI, but then it also brought me to Al-Anon. And I started, I think the pieces were really good for me. And what brought me to Al-Anon was Structured Family Recovery. And Structured Family Recovery is a great program for individuals who have family members, because we so often as family members stand on the sidelines when you go into rehab and go, geez, I hope they take their meds. I hope they don't relapse. They're coming home. I'm so glad they're in rehab because the house is quiet finally, but they're coming home in 28 days. What's that going to be like? And probably in rehab, y'all are thinking, do I have to go back into that toxic situation again? Are they all going to be on me constantly, asking me what I'm doing and looking in my drawers and waiting for the next shoe to fall? But with Structured Family Recovery, you're in recovery, you're working your 12-step program. We ask family members to do the same. So we're on a call with them, because it's never in person, it's always on the phone, because we want the people's voices that you love in your ear. So we're talking about what is Al-Anon, and what is it really like for your loved one to be in recovery, and how can we be a support system instead of part of the problem. So by the time they come in, several weeks later, the family writes a letter to them, invites them in, and then explains what you're doing. You are the bravest person in our family. We're so sorry that we have been part of the problem. We now want to be part of the solution. And to hear those words as someone coming out of addiction from a family member is like, oh my God, I think we can do this together. And we have people that are 5 years on that are still doing their weekly calls with Structured Family Recovery. It's made a huge difference.
I can imagine. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, we were just doing a podcast last week, Jesse and I, and if I'm looking that way, everyone, because Jesse's over there on the other side of the camera. So, but that's one of the things. Like I didn't want my mom to go to Al-Anon.
Yeah.
Please don't go over there and let those people show you how not to enable me anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't do that. Don't get educated on all of my manipulation, because I need to keep manipulating you so that I can keep lying and you can keep keeping secrets from me. I mean, everything you said literally was the description of me and my mother's relationship for a period of time. She would keep my secrets and lie for me and protect me at all costs, and thinking that was going to help save me.
Yeah.
When in reality, that's helping add to my destruction. And so, and it kept me from confronting what I needed to confront for many years.
Right. And I had I was in a NAMI class once, and this gentleman said, because I was really swirling with my daughter's addiction and what I should do, but I hadn't surrendered yet. Mm-hmm. So he said, can you imagine, what would you do if someone told you that what you were doing was enabling her to continue to use? Would you stop? Mm. Man, that was my moment. Mm-hmm. That was my moment. And I thought to myself, all the things I've done have created an environment for her to continue to use, to continue to lie, continue to do all those things. And that's when I clearly understood that whole concept of letting go, stepping back, and allowing her to suffer the consequences of her actions. Mm-hmm. Because if I could have stopped her, I'd have done it by now.
It would have
happened.
And if she could have stopped her,
absolutely,
she would have done it by now. Yeah. It would have already happened.
And that's another piece of it. Until we are ready, you're not going to listen to anybody. Mm-hmm. You've got to be ready. I
think also, something I touched on last podcast is there are a lot of parents that I come in contact with, and their biggest thing is, and just in my own experience, and to some degree, parents are like, why did my son or why did my daughter become an addict? And they feel like it's a direct reflection on how they parented them. And in some regard, there probably were some mistakes, but we all make mistakes. That doesn't mean that every kid becomes an addict, right? So I'm a true believer in that disease of addiction. I subscribe to that idea.
Absolutely.
And it's a mental health issue.
It is. So it's on the DSM-5.
I think that a lot of parents, because of that guilt that they internally feel, they project that out, especially when they're doing that. Are you going to make it this time? Oh, you're 5 minutes late. Have you been using drugs? Mm-hmm. Or I lost $10 out of my purse. Are you the one that took it? And that kind of treatment, when they come back, like you said, and re-engage with their family, and that's what kind of that group that you were talking about helps you learn, is like, hey, I'm here to love you. I'm here to support you. I'm not perfect and I've made some mistakes, and let's work together and do this thing together. Yeah. And that's kind of what you were saying. I think that's beautiful because there hasn't been enough education on that.
Right. And it's really the family's emotional sobriety. That's what we're working on. And you're working on your sobriety. And never the twain shall meet. Let me love you and support you as my loved one, but it's your journey.
Yeah.
You make the decisions. If you decide, whatever you decide to do. Because I don't want anybody telling me what my recovery looks like. I certainly learned that. Yeah. I think you should do this, Linda. That's the quickest way for me to go in the opposite direction. So why would anybody else be any different?
Yeah, you're right. And in the recovery program that I work, which interestingly enough, the 12 steps and the rap class kind of like intertwined in so many different ways with just a couple different topic titles. Yep. But that's the for surefire way to get someone struggling with addiction to go the other way, is to say, this is how you need to do it. This is what you need to do, because none of us want to hear that. But like, this is what I suggest you do. Now, what you decide to do is completely up to you. And I sponsor and mentor many men in recovery. And that's what I give them possible scenarios of outcomes. Like, okay, you can do that if you choose to, and I'll be here to walk with you through whatever happens after that. But I'm going to lay out a couple possible scenarios based on my experience that this may be the outcome of what you're fixing to do. And so,
and what makes that so powerful is, what that individual has done, or what that road may look like, because you've been on it. There's nothing more powerful than a peer engaging with a peer. There's nothing more powerful. And that's one of the things, like, we want to have NAMI in the lobby at Baptist Hospital and Sacred Heart and any place that anybody's doing an intake, so that we can have a peer there that can sit with the individual and as family members, we can sit with them too and explain, this may be their first experience with a Baker Act. Or this may be their first experience with their child having some sort of a psychiatric issue or an addiction issue or anything. If we know what we're facing, It's easier to face. And so often with family members, we're so filled with guilt, we just want to go, all right, they're going to go to rehab for 28 days and then their lives are going to go back to what they were before. And everything's going to be fine and our son will be exactly like he was before. Absolutely not.
Right.
That will never happen. And thank God it won't. Because your life will be much richer. You'll understand each other better. And I really think families that have made it through addiction are so much more close and so much more connected. And if we can just encourage families to be a part of the recovery and not part of the addiction.
Right. And humble, humility. Like, I may have got it wrong for all the years that I've been parenting you, but I'm admitting today that I am throwing all of what I thought was the right idea on how to fix this out the window, and I'm willing to listen to somebody else, people engaged in the lived experience that I'm talking about, and I'm willing to listen to them help me try to revamp or redirect how I'm going to parent you at this point.
Absolutely. I have a beautiful story. I was at Kara's house this morning, and that is throughout Olive Baptist Church. That is a faith-based program. Woman had been in there not that long, but her one big thing she wanted to work on was her relationship with her mother. Her mother had always been really hard, tough love, all that kind of stuff. And she decided, she'd written up a couple of letters to her mother, but hadn't mailed them. Her therapist had suggested that she read them before she sent them. But she decided to reach out to her mom. And in that phone call, because she'd been working her program, her mother said, I wish I hadn't been so hard on you. I wish that I had listened more. I hope you can forgive me.
Wow.
And that's the power.
That's powerful.
Of recovery, because she let go of whatever her mom was feeling about her and just decided to keep the focus on herself. Her mom probably could see that. And really that gives you an opportunity that you don't have to worry about her because she's doing good. Now we need to think about how we're doing.
Well, that seems to be the way it goes. When I start getting better, it's like the people around me get better. You know what I mean? Or at least, and in my perspective also changes. So, maybe my acceptance level is growing. So the people around me are getting better because I'm getting better and accepting them for who they are. And we're all kind of growing this thing together. And I remember thinking, and I spoke about this when I spoke at my mom's memorial, but I remember going through some years and thinking, my mom is to blame. Because I've adopted all of her character defects and shortcomings. Like all of the things, and that's why we butted heads so much. And this is true. We did butt heads a lot because we had a lot of the same shortcomings. And so, both of us would rather be right than happy a lot of times. And so, but I remember at one point just going, wow, I need to be the one to break this chain. Like I need to work on me. And as soon as I started to work on me and she saw the reality that I wasn't engaging in some of that sick arguing and all of that, at some point she started to look within. And she's like, okay, so now he's acting different and I'm not. So maybe I need to really take a look at me. And so I think all of that's great. I think everything that you're involved in, I think is a beautiful thing. I really appreciate you coming and letting us know. Is there anything that you would love to say while we are on the camera? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, I would say anybody who's really having difficulty with a mental health issue or anybody who's got some substance use going on, we have a warm line that anybody can call for information. I always encourage them to call. And also our website, which is namiec.org. We keep resources on that website. So if you're looking for particular things, we have partnerships with people, and these are with people that we know are going to do the work. You're not going to get, a phone that's been disconnected or somebody who's not there that's not going to call you back, because we work really hard with our partnerships in our community and working with the individuals in the community that are on the ground making a difference.
How defeating is that
for
someone that actually has the courage to finally pick up that phone and then they get hung up on or the number's disconnected or they can't get a call back? That's that moment where I'm going, I tried. I'm done, and go the other way.
And I remember an individual in a high place in one of our hospitals saying, Linda, there's some people we just can't help. And I said, I completely disagree with you. I think there are some people we can't help right now.
That's good.
But that doesn't mean we don't need to be ready. when they're ready to come in. And just in closing too, with our co-responders, I think there's an expression that a lot of people use about people that go to the hospital a lot, which is frequent flyers. Mm-hmm. Our co-responders call them friendly faces.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah,
I love it.
It's that perspective change.
Yeah, totally.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
We're going to drop the information for NAMI, and we'll leave a number and whatever other information we have, website.
All that.
If we can find something on RAP, we'll drop that on the screen as well.
We can do that.
Maybe some dates and everything else. If you like this content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, drop a comment, like it, love it, share it, do whatever you have to do to get this information out, because we really want to push this information so that it helps people by the hundreds and the thousands, and then hopefully at some point in the future by the millions.
Absolutely.
So that's the goal. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure.
A pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye, guys.